sticks and stones, and a blade that'll cut you to the bone. But if you're doing what you love and it kills you, well, you can live with that all day long. So if you got a fire, don't lose it. If you gotta do or die, dream, do it. If you got something to prove, go on and prove it. Don't let nobody clip your wings. Keep your head down, keep on the blinders. Tune out the doubters and all the closed minders. If it's in your blood, falling down ain't enough to change who you were born to be. Getting back up, that's the only backup plan you need. So if you got a fire, don't lose it. If you gotta do or die, dream, do it. If you got something to prove, go on and prove it. Don't let nobody clip your wings. Keep your head down, keep on the blinders. Tune out the doubters and all the closed minders. If it's in your blood, falling down ain't enough to change who you were born to be. And getting back up, that's the only backup plan you need. Yeah, getting back up, that's the only backup plan you need.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey.
Oh.
I think Aaron's giving me the right to share here in a minute. I do have that. That's fantastic. Perfect. How's everybody doing tonight?
What's up, man? Doing
What's
good.
up?
How about yourself? Good.
We're ready to learn about some annuities. We've been talking about them a lot lately, guys, but I wanted to show you guys a couple of things that I've learned over the years, a couple of things that are going to help you understand them better and be able to speak to them clearly. So we are at 7:04, so we're just going to kick this off if that's okay. Everybody good with that? So does everybody have a pen and paper? Because you are going to want to write this stuff down. Okay? So first of all, there is something called an annuity. Everybody tends to get confused as to what an annuity is or isn't. So I'm typing one extra thing in here that is very important to know, and then I'm going to share my screen with you. So guys, an annuity really just is a savings vehicle. It's backed by a life insurance company, but essentially you are going to be able to use it for a lot of different things, okay? And I do want to change this. I want to move you guys. You guys are all over here. I need you right here. There we go. That's where I want you. Zoom. I tell you what. Anyways, a couple of things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about some of the terms that we typically go over. So guys, first of all, mortgage protection appointments are the #1 place to find your annuity money. They really are. The question that I always ask in every single appointment is, do you have anything that might act like a life insurance policy other than what we've already talked about? Because we've already talked about the life insurance policies they have at this point. And then I'm going to start giving them ideas of what I'm talking about. Maybe you have an old 401k or an old IRA. Maybe you have savings in the bank larger than an emergency fund. And then you just be quiet and listen to them, right? And something else that you can add into that, anything that might knock down this $250,000 mortgage that you had if something were to have happened yesterday, right? So this is where you're going to find your annuity money. So when you find it, it's important to know a couple of things. First of all, qualified money versus unqualified money. If you guys don't know what that is, essentially it is tax deferred or you've already paid the taxes on it, right? A 401k is qualified money, which means they have not paid their taxes on that yet. When they take the money out, that's when they're going to pay the taxes. Okay. Unqualified money would be money that you would find that's like sitting in a savings account. Let's say somebody has a 200 grand sitting in a savings account. I know I don't have 200 grand sitting in my savings account, but even if I did, I wouldn't want it sitting in my savings account, right? Because I am losing money there. But some people do because they're just scared of the market. They're scared of losing it. So they have large amounts of cash sitting in a savings account. You can pull that into an annuity. And so when you find this money, I always say, well, your money can do three things. Your money can go up, your money can go down, or it can just stay right where it was. And if I could show you a way to eliminate one of those three, which one would you want eliminated? Well, I'd want to go down. Exactly. That's what I show people how to do. And maybe it's a fit and maybe it's not, but we'll get together after this and I'll show you a couple of things. If it's not a fit, no worries. At least you got a free education, right? And just leave it at that and then move on with your mortgage protection meeting. But you always kind of want to know where it has come from. Is it in a 401k? Is it in a 403b? Is it in a TSP if they were in the military, right? Is it in a Roth IRA? Is it in a savings account? Is it in a money market? Is it in a CD? These are all places where people keep cash, right? And so you want to know what that is because we have to build this the correct way for the client. So first of all, finding out if it's a qualified versus unqualified savings. What we typically work with are called fixed index annuities. You'll hear them called FIAs. There's a lot of other things out there like variable annuities. Guys, I will tell you, variable annuities are probably one of the worst products that are out there. Nobody needs to be in a variable annuity unless they have just maxed absolutely everything out. If you ever find a variable annuity, you seriously need to do your best to replace it because they can lose money in a variable annuity. Money managers love variable annuities because variable annuities come with high fees, high commissions, and they get to take their percentage every year for managing their money. So when you find a money manager that has put somebody in a variable annuity, first of all, find out who the money manager is. If it's their son, you need to tread lightly, but you still want to try to get them out of that. But it is not a good product for people. We can move that over into a fixed index annuity. And the difference between the two, in a fixed index annuity, you get to participate in the upside of the market, but with zero downside risk. So at the very worst case scenario, your money just stays the same, right? In a variable annuity, your money fluctuates with the market. Rather than being in an index, which I'm going to go over in a minute, but rather than being in an index, they're in mutual funds. And mutual funds can go up and down. So when you see an annuity with mutual funds in it, just know that it's a variable annuity and we need to do our best to help this person out. But on indexes, guys, an index is very simple. It's just a group of stocks or some form of index that we're following. So for instance, the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is a stock index, okay? What the indexes do is they're considered point to point. They look at where the money is the day that it goes. They look at where the market is the day the money goes in. So if you did an annuity today, they're going to take a look where the S&P 500 is on 7/2 of 2025. And then if it's in a 1-year index, they're going to take a look at where that whole stock index is on 7/2 of 2026. If there has been a gain, you get credit. If it has gone down, your money just stays the same. Very easy, right? Now, in annuities and in some IULs, we have 1-year and 2-year indexes. Now, you are going to get higher returns in a 2-year index versus a 1-year index. You're going to have higher caps, higher participation rates, in a 2-year. The way that I always explain it to my client is, hey, I love 2-year indexes because you're giving yourself a much larger chance for a gain. Heaven forbid, if there was a down market 1 year, you get another year to make that up, right? So the way the 2-year index would work, if the market dipped down 10% in year one, and then it bounced back, because that's typically what markets do. They typically bounce back after a down year, and it bounced back 20% the next year. Well, you're going to get a credit of 10. So the 10 dipped. Year two, it went up 20. So you're going to get a credit of 10. Everybody following that? Make sense? So that's why I love 2-year indexes, and I use them a lot when choosing my indexes. I want to talk to you real quick about a cap versus participation rate. Okay? A cap is you get a credit up to a cap of whatever it is. So if the market comes back 15% and you have a cap of 10, well, the extra 5 just goes away. You get up to the 10% if the market does 15% in an index term. So up to the cap. Now, if the market does 7%, you get up to the 7. If it does 8, you get 8. If it does 10, you get 10. If it does 20, you're capped at 10. That's what a cap is. So caps are typically going to be good for low growth years. That's where a cap is going to be your friend. In high growth years, you want a participation rate. Okay. So if, for instance, a participation rate, and we have participation rates that go to 125% participation. So for instance, in that same instance, if the market did 10% and you had 125% participation, you would actually be credited 12.5%. So over the 10% that the index performed, right? If you had 100% participation, you would be credited 10. If you had a 60% participation for 10%, you'd be credited 6. So you can see how a cap would have actually been better the year that it did 10%. If you had a 60% participation with it versus a 10% cap, you would be better off with the cap in that instance. Does everybody see how that works? So you always want to pay attention to kind of what the horizon looks like. So large growth years are typically best for participation rates. And I generally like to choose the participation rates on 2-year because you generally get a large growth over 2 years. And then guys, we're going to talk today about growth annuities versus income annuities. They are two very different things meant for two very different purposes. Okay. And I will show you guys some illustrations and things like that. Real quick, I wanted to talk to you on this is what a cap would look like. So if you notice here, and guys, on the asset shield, well, on all the annuities, you're going to have a sheet like this that's going to show you the best 10-year period, worst 10-year period, and the most recent 10-year period. So with this one, Asset Shield 16 bonus with, this is the S&P 500 Advantage 2-year with cap. You see here that the cap is 15%. So if you look at the green box, you're going to see the best 10 years that this one ever returned is 6.39%. The worst 10-year period there in the yellow, that's 4.17. That's the worst 10 years that this index has ever had. And the most recent 10 years is 4.29. 15% cap. That sounds great, right? Until you look at the participation. So it's only a 60% participation rate, but you can see that the best 10-year participation was 10.4% annualized return. The worst 10-year was 6.19, and the most recent was 7.6. So these are some examples of participation versus cap. Any questions on how caps and participations work? No? I did a good job explaining it? Okay, good.
How do they decide, Jared, how do they decide the 10-year period? Because I see those overlap.
Right. So they generally take every 10-year segment, Diane, and they look at the annualized return of that 10-year segment. Okay? So they're using January to January. Understand that, there's an infinite amount of, well, not an infinite, but a lot. If you take January 1, 10-year period, you could take January 2 for a 10-year period, and so on and so on. So they just use January to January for purposes of showing this. But on this 10-year period, I don't know if you guys can see it on your screen, but the best 10-year period was January 2012 to January of 2022. That was the best 10-year period this index has ever performed. And you'll see.
So they figure it out for every single year, and then they go back and they figure out the 10-year period.
They figure out the best 10, the worst 10-year period, and the most recent.
Okay.
So you'll see here, like on the green side, the best 10-year period. That 2-year period, after you initially put it in there, 53.6% return. You got a 32% credit on that 2-year segment. That's a chunk, right? Now, the next 2-year period, it only performed 6.18. You got 3.71. So you would have actually been better on the cap. Can I go back? Oh, let me. It may not let me. Oh, hold on. I might be able to do it over here. So you can see here that on year 4 in the green, you would have been better off with the cap there because you would have gotten 6.18 versus the 3.71, right? Make sense? But this index performs very, very well, so it's stronger to illustrate the 60% participation.
Can they change between cap and participation?
It can. First of all, you can allocate certain percentages. So you can allocate 50% to participation and 50% to cap. Okay? Or, Diane, you can actually, at the end of each period segment, you can move the money. So the best thing, if you had a crystal ball, the best thing to do in this instance that we were just talking about would have been to be in the participation for the first 2-year period and then change it to the cap for the next 2-year period, right? Now, we don't have a crystal ball, but you can see ebbs and flows in the economy, right? So you can judge by that. That answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I do like to diversify, Diane, and put some in a little bit of each. Now, the big thing to note for your clients is if you put them in all 2-year indexes, they're not going to see a gain except once, a potential gain every 2 years. So on the odd years, they're not going to see anything. They're just going to see their money stay the same, right? It's important to be sure that your client knows that, all right? Because, hey, the market did great last year and I didn't see anything. Well, because you're in a 2-year index and you're going to see that gain next year, right? So here are some illustrations that I've done. We have been talking a lot about the bonus 23. Guys, this is a great product. Now, this product does have and I'm actually going to come out because I want to be able to point. So 1 second. Let me exit out of here and blow this up. All right. So you can see here, this is the bonus 23. Okay, guys? It has a fee, 95 basis points, just under 1%. So you're going to potentially see your money go down on any given year by 95 basis points if there's no return. Okay? So that is very important. This is the wrong one. I wanted to show you here. Let me just bring up. This is the guaranteed. I wanted to show you the non-guaranteed. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. One sec. Because I do want to show you. And guys, the guaranteed is basically not making a lot of money, just to be honest. There's this. One second. I apologize, folks. I put this together so fast that I screwed that up.
Hey, Larry, while you're doing that, I have a question.
What you got?
Can you put part of like half of their money in the index and half of it in just like a regular fixed annuity?
So the index is in a fixed indexed annuity. So there's lots of different indexes that you can choose in any given annuity. Okay. Good question, but they are actually one and the same. Okay. If that helps at all. And I can show you real quick here. Let me get this changed and I'll show you what I mean. In the illustration software. Mail to K63. Got it. Okay, so that's fixed. So let me show my screen real quick and I'll put you guys in the software so you guys can see if you've never been in there. Here. So I'm going to change this product real quick to the 23. That's the one we're talking about. And then it shows the premium here, but these are all the different indexes you can choose. Okay.
I think she's talking about that very first one where it says the fixed value strategy.
Oh, the fixed value strategy. You can put money there. It doesn't give a lot of return. Is that what you're referring to? And I'm sorry, I didn't catch who was talking.
Holly.
Holly.
Yeah,
that's
what I was looking for.
You can put money into the 1-year fixed value strategy, but it's going to be a very low return. But yes, you can do that.
But isn't it is there a floor on that though? They're definitely going to get gross every year.
They will get gross something. It's around maybe 2%, 2-3%. Something. It's low. I've actually never. I mean, I could tell you what it is real quick here. We'll just put 100% in there and see what it says. Oh, I got a 200%. Hold on, let me get rid of this. And yeah, we can talk about whatever you guys want to tonight. I want this to be productive for you and for you guys to understand what's going on. But that fixed account, Holly, is currently giving us 2%. So if you compare 2% over 2 years versus 32% over 2 years in that one index I was showing, that's a big deal, right? So they do this for people that, I mean, they have other products. Let me put it this way. They have other products that give a better guaranteed rate than 2%. So if somebody's looking for a guaranteed interest rate, this is not the product for them. Okay. But let me get back over here. So this is the non-guaranteed 23%. So you guys are going to see here, okay, year 6, okay, it's grown up to 524, and then you see in year 7, it goes down to 519. When you have fees, their money is not going down, but the fee is being charged. So it's important for your client to know if you put any fees on any of their indexes, or if you put them in any annuity with a fee, that periodically they may see, if there's no growth, they may see their money go down a little bit because the fee's being deducted. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I always kind of like to look at year 10 as a litmus test of what's going on, because we've had 10 years to figure out what's going on. So this 10-year period for the Asset Shield 23, 65-year-old male, 23% bonus. We did it for 10 years. 628, 646. You guys see that right there?
Yes.
628, 646. Now, the bonus 16 does not sound like it is as good of a product, but the bonus 16 has 0% fees, right? So in year 10, and instead of having 628, you're going to have 652 because there have been no fees. Make sense? So there is a certain time frame and certain reasons to use the 23% bonus. The number one reason to use a 23% bonus would be if somebody actually was in a bad annuity, like a variable annuity. Maybe they have a surrender charge left on that, and that 23% is going to be the difference of getting them through suitability so that they can get out of that. Okay? Because it's going to make them whole. Suitability, when you're replacing an annuity with annuity, they scrutinize it very, very much. And so they want to be sure that the client is not losing a lot of money by breaking their policy during the surrender charge period. So that's what this bonus is meant to help with. But if you're just talking about cash in the bank, the 23% is a great conversation starter, but the 16% is actually going to make more money over the long run. Make sense?
Mm.
Now,
Yes.
this is a 55-year-old male. So let's say that you found a 55-year-old male that had 250K. He moved to a new house in a new state for a new job, and he left 250K at his old job. Well, what I generally recommend is to roll that into a growth annuity for 10 years. That's going to get him to age 65. And then when he hits 65, you roll that out of that growth annuity, you roll it into an income annuity. And now you got two sales. You're setting yourself up and doing the best thing for your client, and I'll show you why. But this 55-year-old male, 10 years down the road, he still has that $652. We put him into the 16% bonus, right? Then at age 65, we take that 652, 251, and we put that into an income shield. The income shield has a 10% bonus. So he's getting a 10% bonus on 652. So now he has 717 at age 65. We're going to delay his income to age 70. He can use his current 401k money to supplement, but we're giving him some time to get this juiced up, because the big thing to understand about an accumulation annuity versus an income annuity. On an income annuity, there are two buckets. There's the actual account value, which is the death benefit. And then there is the benefit base. The benefit base is what your lifetime income is based on. And the benefit base has guaranteed returns. So in this instance, we used a guaranteed 8.25 simple interest roll up, which means he's getting 8.25 on this 717 every single year added to his benefit base. So when he turns this on at age 70, he will have $73,474 in perpetuity for as long as he lives. He will never run out of money. And you did that for him with $250,000. If he lives to age 88, 89, he will have taken out 1.3, almost $1.4 million that you helped him grow from 250,000. And you got paid twice. You got paid on the 250, you got paid on the 650. Kim, what you got?
So when I thought that one had to have 7 years before you could take out. No.
No. So let me show you this real quick. It does not have to have anything. What it does want is there is a point where it is better for the client to pick a guaranteed interest versus simple interest. So this is a great question, Kim. If they're going to be taking income during the first 7 years that you start this, you want to use the 8 1/4 simple roll up. Okay. If they're going to be starting any income, it doesn't have to be at year 7. It can be any year between year 1 and year 7.
Okay.
It's going to financially be best for your client to use the simple roll up. The simple roll up, they take the initial lump sum. So the 650 plus the bonus. So the 7, whatever it was. What did they say it was? 717. Okay. Simple interest, 8 1/4 times 717. Whatever that is, they get that added to their benefit base every single year. It is not compound. Compound is different. So when you have compound interest, whatever you have gained is added on to what you will potentially earn. Easiest thing that I can tell you, if you had, well, I can't even do compound interest with a normal calculator, but if you had $700,000 and you had simple interest of $700,000, I can do the simple interest. So we'll just call it 700,000 times 1.08. Well, hold on. 700,000. I don't want to do that. 700,000 times, well, geez. Times 0.0825. Fat fingers. So, added to his benefit base, he's going to get $57,750 added to his benefit every single year for 7 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. That's simple interest. Simple interest is based on the initial deposit. Compound interest. So compound interest is 6.5%. Now the compound interest is if you had the same 700,000 times 0.06, let's say, I think it was 6.5. 5. So he's going to be 45,500. So you're going to add this in now. So plus the 700,000. But the next year, the compound interest is going to be based on this number, not just the initial deposit. So you take that times 0.065, and then you just keep adding this on and adding it on. And that's the compound interest. Okay. So if you're going to delay income for more than 7 years, it's more beneficial to use the compound interest, even though it's a lower interest rate. Did that answer your question, Kim?
Jared?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Quick question. Is it just math on, what's the math behind the 7 years? Do you have like...
It's literally just the math on the 7 years is they figured out where the the impact of the compound interest is better versus the simple interest. That's all they did.
Perfect. Thank you.
Not a problem. Yeah, if the simple interest rate were to change, the years would change too. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But based on the 8.25, it's 7 years. That answer the question? Cool. So this is, we put it into a growth annuity for 10 years, took that 250, dumped it in, it grew to 652, dumped it in the income. We got a 10% bonus on our account. Okay, we got a 10% bonus on our account. Now, the income account value, look at this. Your account is growing based on 717. Your income account is growing based on 776. Okay? So, this is growing, growing, growing until you are 70. Turn it on, 73,474 the rest of your life. Now, one thing to pay attention to when you do this. Let's say that your client turns it on at age 70 and they live to 77. Well, there's still going to be some money in the death benefit at age 77. So their beneficiary would receive $402,000 in that year. But you can see here in the death benefit column that in year 16, it basically goes, in year 17, it goes away. Okay? Which means they have now taken out more money than is in the account value. They will continue to get that 73,000 every single year as long as they're alive, but when they pass away, there will be no money in the death benefit. Make sense? So that's the trade-off on that. And this is really meant for people to be able to plan what they're going to be able to live on and without risk of running out of any money. Because a retiree's number one concern isn't how much money do I have, it's do I have enough, and it's not even when I'm going to die. It's do I have enough money to get me to when I'm going to die, whenever that is. And so that's what this income annuity helps. Okay. Now, the gentleman, in my personal opinion, that helped us out on Thursday, I think he just graduated college last week. But in this particular instance, he had suggested, and he's not wrong, but he had suggested that when I proposed this idea to him, he said, well, but you're going to get the guarantee of the roll-up every year if you put it in at age 55. So I did the illustration, putting in 250,000 at age 55 rather than putting it in a growth annuity like we did up here that in 10 years grew to 652. I put 250,000 into the income shield at age 55. We still turned it on at age 70, which is the same year we turned it on here. We used compound interest, but he's only going to be getting $51,276 versus $73,474. I don't know about you, but $22,000 in retirement a year is a lot of money. It is a true statement that we cannot predict what the market will do, but my strategy is typically going to give them more money and going to give you more sales. Okay? But that's what this looks like. Now, the last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is delaying your income. Because if you look here, I'm going to move this one down here. This one we did 73,000, and we Holly, go ahead and ask your question before, because I do want to put this to pay attention, but go ahead and ask your question. What do you got?
Is it okay, or like, can you put a younger person, say in their 20s or 30s, into one of these if they have a 401k?
You cannot move money that is in a current 401k into an annuity. They have to have severed ties with that company. So if they are currently contributing money to a 401k and they are still working for that company, you cannot move that. Now, if they change jobs, you can take what was in that 401k and put it into an annuity. And I would tell you that you should put it into a growth annuity at that age. Okay. Um, let
And
me get
whenever you say a growth annuity, you're talking about the asset
asset
shield.
shield. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I'll get to the rest of the questions at the end of this because this is very important for you guys to know and understand. So hold your questions, write them down if you think you might forget. I will answer them all. But delaying your income. This is taking the best case scenario that we did. We used the 16% bonus. Uh, who, we'll unmute you in a second, Adrian. So TV was coming through. So we took the best case scenario. We took the 16% bonus at age 55, 250K, no fees, grew it to 652. Then we put it into a income shield, right? Age 70, taking out 73,000. Now, here's this. Let's say we live to 88. We take out 1.396 million. If you delay starting your income, it goes up. So this is delaying it 2 years. So rather than starting your income at age 70, you have a guaranteed roll up on your income. So rather than starting it at age 70, you start at age 72. Instead of 73,000, you're going to be bringing in 84,000. At age 88, instead of having 1.396 million that you have paid out, at age 88, you will have paid out 1.439. So the purpose of this, you can illustrate till you're blue in the face, but they can turn the income on whenever. They can turn it on at 70 or 72. You don't have to decide that when you write the annuity. You're just illustrating what it would look like. Okay? So you do not have to decide when they take the income at the time that you write the policy. You do want to have a little bit of an idea because you want to pick either the simple interest or the compound interest, right? But most of the time you're going to be doing the simple interest because you're going to get a higher return, and most of the time people are going to want to start an income within 7 years. Okay, so you want to have a little bit of idea when they want to turn it on, but delaying it 2 years gives them more money. So if they had a 401k that you had not touched that they could live off of, or they have a savings that they could live off of, or frankly, if they just don't need it right now, if they're still working, hey, I didn't retire at 70, I actually worked till 72. Well, now you're going to have more money by delaying that. Okay. So that's all that. Now, I'm sure you guys have some questions. Adrian, you had a question. What is your question? Adrian, you there?
I am, Jared. My question was, what if their 401k is fully vested and they're still working on the job?
Fully vested, all fully vested means is that they had a match from their employer, and their employer has said, you need to work here for a certain number of years before we will let you walk away with the money we gave you. So even though it is fully vested, that just means they get to keep their match when they leave. Fully vested has nothing to do with whether or not they can roll it out.
Okay.
Now,
okay. Okay. That's really yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Not a problem. Now, rolling money out of a current 401k is always going to be up to the 401k administrator. They rarely ever allow you to roll any money out of your 401k while you are still associated with them. You have to, they call it severing ties. You have to sever ties.
Okay.
Even if you retire, sever ties and then get hired back at a part-time basis, right? You have to have that letter of severance in order to roll it out. Now, there are times where certain companies may send you a letter and say, hey, you are approaching retirement. We will allow you to take a certain percentage of your 401k and roll it out into something else if you want to. When your client gets that letter, if that ever happens, you have a small window to roll that out, because they are not going to just leave that open forever. They're going to say, you have to roll this out by XYZ date, or it's going to stay in there until you sever ties. Okay.
Does that work? I mean, is that still the same for an IULE? Is the like fully vested?
So you would not want to roll out a 401k into an IULE.
Okay.
Yeah. So general rule of thumb, think of it like this. An IUL, generally, there are always exceptions to this, but an IUL generally is for building wealth. An annuity is for wealth you have already saved.
Got it. That makes sense.
Okay. Perfect. Diane, what you got?
Okay. So just trying to keep things clear. Your first, when you find this money, and let's say they're 61 years old.
61 years old. Okay.
We're going to put it into an asset shield first to help them grow.
It depends. So this is a great question, because it depends on what age they are when you find the money, right?
Okay.
61-year-old, 10 years down the road is going to be 71, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so if you roll that out at 71 into an income shield, you are also going to want that income shield to have a couple of years to cook, right?
Okay. Right.
So now you're looking at not taking income until you're in your early 70s. Make sense?
Yes.
So it's a great question to ask. It is not always going to work out the way that I described about putting money initially into an asset shield and then moving money into an income. It's not always going to work that way, because it does depend on their age for that scenario to work. You need time for that compound interest to grow the asset shield before moving it into an income shield. Okay. Now, not everybody is going to be a candidate for an income shield product. And the reason for that is you have to have a pretty large lump sum of money before it to generate enough income for you. So if you find somebody that is 61, for instance, Diane, and they have $100,000, run the illustrations, but in general, ask them what that money is earmarked for, right? Why do you have this money? What does it need to do? So this is always a question you should ask people.
So Jared,
Yeah.
so I had a situation that you helped me with actually. In this situation, she wanted to leave 150,000 of her money. She was 61 years old to a humane society. She had heirs, and so we just wanted to grow that as much as possible.
Correct.
That is,
Correct.
it's a kind of to give you an idea of what he means by earmarking it for, you know. But if they want income from it as soon as possible, then we're going to look at other things, right? It's
Correct.
like looking at their risk tolerance.
Correct. Absolutely. Like, generally, this is without doing an illustration, you can generally assume 5%. So as far as using an income rider. So if they had $100,000, imagine 5%, if they turned that on today, be $5,000. $5,000 annually is not a lot of money to help people with income, right? So
Right.
that 100,000 would be probably better off put into an asset shield, letting it grow, and using it for fund money, using it for legacy money, like what Lake was just talking about. You know, hey, I want this to grow. I want to be able to take some if I need it. But in general, this money is for this humane society or for this family member, you know. And to that point, when you find this money in a mortgage protection meeting, a lot of times the people that have this kind of money are going to be a little bit older. Maybe they have had some health things happen to them, and you're just showing them MPP, right? Well, I don't want to say just because like over 60% of my sales are MPP. MPP is a great product to help people
Right.
with, but you can use this in addition to MPP to move money. Hey, they have 50 grand sitting in an account. Well, move that over to an asset shield with no fees. Use the 16% and just let that sucker grow. Help them with their, 12, 18, or 24 months worth of mortgage payment protection. Move that over too, and it's just going to be extra money to leave to the spouse when something happens. Right? So larger lump sums, you're going to be looking for income more than likely. People that have saved that amount of money are looking to use it for an income. Smaller sums, and I would say probably 100 grand or less, people are really using that for extra stuff. Okay. Did that help out, Diane?
Yes.
Yep. So always ask, what do you need this money to do? Do you plan on needing this for income? Is it for a rainy day fund? Are you using this for a legacy, etc.? So,
Okay.
Josh, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, are there any types of accounts like that we can't roll money from into an annuity? Like that would take a financial advisor? Like, is there anything that we can't roll money from?
No,
Oh,
not that I'm aware of. Now, we are not financial advisors, right?
right.
We do not have that license. So when you are filling this out, there will be a box that you need to check, that the client will need to check, and you need to check it for the client, that I am moving this money of my own volition. Okay.
Okay.
They decided that this is what they want to do with the money, because you cannot advise them to sell a security because you do not have a securities license.
Okay.
What you can tell them is you do not have a license to lose their money.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Sounds good.
Kim, what you got?
Where the RMDs come into play when they have to start taking distributions with it, if it's a 401k rollover.
Yep. RMDs, if you guys don't know, stands for required minimum distribution. So when you have a qualified account like a 401k where you've deferred your taxes, Uncle Sam basically says, hey, we know you're going to die at some point, and we want to get some of our taxes now. So when you turn certain ages, depending on when your birthday is, it used to be 70 and a half. Now it's like 72, 73. It changes a little bit. So it's going to be based on their birthday, but all of these accounts are going to be RMD friendly because they understand that they have RMDs. So an RMD, required minimum distribution, it's a math formula that the IRS has figured out. At whatever age, you have to take XYZ percentage of whatever you have in there. You have to pull it out, pay your taxes on it, and you can use the rest of the money for whatever you want.
And if you move it into like an income, what if they are
So
close to that age? Do
generally
they have to start taking it?
Generally speaking, the income shield, once you turn on the lifetime income, that will cover RMDs. The income that you're getting from that income rider will cover RMDs. But if you have a scenario where you're in an income annuity and you have not exercised the income rider to start a lifetime income and you still do owe an RMD, you can take that RMD out. still penalty free, but it will lower your income benefit base. And so your lifetime income could potentially go down.
Okay.
So sometimes it is worth it to people once they get to the age where they have to start taking RMDs and you're in an income annuity, it is just more beneficial for them to exercise the income rider
Okay.
rather than take a distribution from their account. Because
Okay.
distribution from the account and distribution from the income benefit base are two different things, but they both satisfy an RMD.
Okay.
In an income annuity, if you take money out of the account, it affects the income bucket. Okay.
Okay.
Diane.
So let's say you put somebody in a 23% Asset Shield 10.
Yep. Nothing wrong with that.
All right. And it wasn't a large amount.
Mm-hmm.
So she got that bonus on there.
Mm-hmm.
Is she able to ever switch that to a 16% or does she stay at that 23%?
She
MS?
stays in that product until she's been in it for 10 years and you put her in something else.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not a problem, particularly at smaller amounts. It's not necessarily like if somebody had done that and put somebody into the 23%, like I said, it's not a bad product. There will be a small different. The smaller the amount, the smaller the interest. So the smaller
Right.
difference there would be between a 16% and a 23%. And
Right.
understand that the 23% has its perks too. The 23%, not only do you get a larger lump sum, but you have a larger liquidity. So rather than a 10% free withdrawal, you have a 12%. So on a
Mhm.
smaller sum, that might be good for people because they can have more access to their money. And then in addition, the 23% for the first like 6, 7 years is actually going to have more money in it. If the indexes are performing the same, it'll have more money in it than a 16 anyways. But in general,
Okay.
longevity, because of avoiding the fees, the 16% will be better.
Okay.
Make sense?
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yep.
Last question, Mr. Craig. You got it.
Hey, Jared. So the other day we were talking about the bonuses, the 16 and the 23%. Do
Uh-huh.
I remember you saying it had to be unqualified funds, or did it matter if it's qualified or unqualified?
Does not matter if it's qualified or unqualified. You get the same bonus. It's just the tax designation. Okay. So if somebody had a qualified 401k and they lost a ton of money last year and they're like, hey, I can get you 16% today, you know, let's say they had 600 grand and they lost 100, right? Well, 16% of 600 grand is $96,000. So, hey, I can get you almost back to whole just by moving your account today. You had 600. Oh, wait, no, 500, sorry, times 0.16, 80,000. So you had 600, you lost 100. I'm so sorry. Right? But you have 500 now. And on day one, moving that 500 over, they're going to give you 80 grand the first day. So that gets you almost back to whole, right? And that's your money vested on day one. You're earning interest on that. Instead of earning interest on 500, you're earning interest on 580. And you are almost whole and you will never have less than $580,000 in that account ever again. Can't lose money. So hopefully, guys, this has been beneficial for you guys.
That was amazing.
Yes,
Learn,
very.
Thank you,
learn some
Jared.
things.
Thank you
Not a
so
problem.
much.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Yes.
Obviously, if you guys have more questions, shoot them up to your upline. That happy for them to bring me in as well if they need to. Okay.
Thank you so much. It's
Thank you so
awesome.
much.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Y'all have a great evening.
Thanks, Sherry.
All right.